Welcome to lesson 6, where we'll be discussing change handlers. And so, what are change handlers? Change handlers are responsible for creating the defaults and the basic validation around entities. Although they are very important and necessary for entities, nonetheless there isn't very much work that needs to be done, and we will see that there is some basic code that we can use, helpers classes that can do most of the work for us. Just to refresh ourselves in terms of where we're up to in terms of the development cycle, we've made some database changes and we've shown how you create new entities for creating the MO. And as part of that, there's the important part of change handlers of creating defaulting for defaulting and new basic validations for these entities. So I want to show you is go to the application and show you 3 different change handlers. And here are the change handlers for the user setup process. And you will see that the change handler is a class which extends this particular base framework class. And you should see that we have methods like handle and add or change, and we also have validation rules that are set up. And most of this code, let's start with the simplest one, is making use of what is called a helper class. And the helper class is used to actually do all the work. I call a helper and handle, add, or change, and you can see also the helper does the validation rules. And what does basically this handle? If I actually go here to the Java, let's just go to the Java docs, you will see that basically what it tells you is that it's responsible for adding log entries for creation, for entity creation, entity status change. So it's related to creating a log related to an MO. It also blanks out status reasons. It does basic validations like the business object cannot be changed, the business object must be the correct MO, some really basic standard validation handling that you expect to happen when you create new entities. So we have basically helpers classes to deal with all this, and we don't really need to code very much unless we need to make some exceptions. So, for example, we have a helper here for the MO. If I go to the log, you will see there is a different type of helper. This helper over here, let's have a look if we can go into it, has different information needed for the log. For example, it will defaulting for add, log date time it will set the date time to be system date, use current date, log sequence, the next highest number, has all some basic information. And again, we're using these helpers to do this work. There's a couple of exceptions. Sometimes we do need to program a little bit on our handlers. For example, in this particular case, for a characteristic, we are responsible when we add a new characteristic that we create, find the next integer to create the next value for the characteristic entry. So this one doesn't have a full helper. So because it doesn't have a helper, therefore this code has been placed directly into the change handler. Mainly, although the change handlers are very critical and necessary, we do not need to do very much. Best thing is to copy and paste from existing ones. If you need to do a new type of validation, you can add a new validation rule here. This one validates the characteristic value, but if you needed a new validation, you can do that. Remember again, we do have validation BO algorithms, so basic validation, which is not really at the lowest level, can be done there. this is really to take responsibility for really basic data entry and adding new data related to defaulting some basic information. So even though these entities are important, you can basically copy and paste from existing ones and make the changes as needed. So once you finish this, we have finished the MO development together with the defaulting and the validation, and we've done very little Java coding so far. Remember again that after this, in order to do your cycle of development, you're going to need to most probably do some BO development, UI development, and navigation to create a whole look and feel for around your MO. So, remember that we can actually still need to use config tools, and in order to be able to get to the stage where we have a BO, this all is work that should be done within config tools, and we will take up afterwards and the next lesson looking at basic coding patterns that we're going to be needed to create BOs, to create BO plugins, and so on and so forth. Okay, so much of the work that we have here, as you see, to create the BO and the whole user interface uses config tools, and hopefully you've done the config tools class to be able to actually create your portals and your zones and your UI maps and UI hints and so on to create a whole interface around this. So all this is external to this course and should be followed up in parallel or afterwards, or perhaps you've already done this before.